We have Wes in somewhere in the USA. Pronouns are he, him. Wes, you're on the show with Forrest and Matt. Thank you for calling, sir. How are you?
Hi, Wes.
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Y'all doing all right?
Not too bad.
We'll
Trying to wake up after that
maybe,
last call. How are you?
yeah. So I'm a pastor. I'm in the South in the United States, and I appreciate what you guys are doing. The last call, I think I've heard a few of your shows, and I think that it really it shows there's just a huge dissonance between what people are thinking. I appreciate the ability to be able to talk it out, talk through ideas and some different things. So,
Sure.
okay, so there's two things that I've wanted to ask you guys about. So I'll throw both of them out there. One of them is a little bit more kind of irregular, and one of them is a little more wild, maybe a little more fun topic. So let you kind of tell me what you want to talk about. But I'm wondering what you think about like open theism and more progressive Christianity, because it sounds like you debate a lot of kind of fundamentalists. I'm wondering what you think of something that's a little bit more progressive and a little bit more scientifically compatible views of God. And I'm wondering what you think on the wild side of more actually scientifically feasible views of God, like protospermia.
I'm happy to talk about a lot of that. I don't know what the word open theism means. Could you please explain to me what that is?
So open theism is kind of the opposite of Calvinism, in that God.
Okay.
I hear a lot of arguments from people saying, well, if God is all powerful, then a lot of this doesn't make sense, which is true. And if God is all knowing, then a lot of this doesn't make sense, which is true. But in my view of it, God is not all powerful in that Marvel superhero sense of all powerful. And God is not all knowing in some type of logically impossible sense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that to me feels like a God that is compatible with the Bible and is compatible with actual reality.
Really?
I would agree with compatible with the Bible. So you're saying just dropping some of the omnis, like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's the thing.
He's definitely not all powerful and definitely not all knowing.
Doesn't matter.
He limits his power,
whether
he limits his power. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So whether or not he's omni doesn't matter. Is God sufficiently powerful to create a universe from nothing?
Can you explain what you mean by that?
Does God exist separate from the universe?
It seems like it. It seems like it. Yeah, it's it. So
did God create the universe? Did God create the universe?
He did.
Okay. Can God change the universe, including the physical laws surrounding the universe?
It doesn't seem like he can in the ways that we traditionally think that he can.
So there are no miracles. God can't raise people from the dead. God can't turn water to wine. Nothing like that.
There's certainly limited things that he can do, but there definitely seems like
limits about those.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I believe in Jesus Christ, and I believe that that God raised him from the dead. So I do believe he'll do that somehow.
Okay. The problem is that when you start listing what the biblical God can supposedly do and has supposedly done, it doesn't matter whether or not he's omni. He's not a God that fits in with the open thesis model. The open thesis model will fit the biblical God only if you take a very limited view of soteriology, where God is open or, provided his son as a sacrifice for everyone, so that all who sinned have fallen short of the glory of God, and everyone who will accept Jesus will ultimately be saved. But then when you read other verses about salvation being a gift of God, and that not everybody who proclaims Lord, Lord will be saved, now you have differences in soteriology that aren't consistent with open theism. But when open theism begins to limit the power of God to the point where God can't do the very things that needed to be done, which is to create a universe from scratch, to create life, to restore life, to do all of the things that we identify as miracles because they violate the normal physical understanding of the universe, that's no longer a God that's consistent with open theism. So when you asked, I let Forrest answer first, but when you asked, what do we think about open theism? My first thought is, generally, I prefer open theism because it's less dogmatic, but it's not compatible with a biblical view.
Yeah, I would just say,
Okay.
like, based on what you told me already, by saying you drop some of the omni, saying all these things, that definitely does fit a little bit better with the Bible God, as far as I can tell, because the God of the Bible is this bumbling, messy. He's clearly new at this job. He gets a lot of things wrong. He makes a lot of mistakes. He regrets having made humans at all several times. He like there's over and over and over he tries to do something and fails, and it's usually because humans outsmart him, or just completely go against what he wants, and then he has to kill a bunch of people to prove how big of a dick he has. It's like this, that saying that this God of the Bible isn't all powerful, isn't all knowing, isn't all wise, isn't all kind, isn't all good, that definitely fits with the Bible better. But I think all that would be doing is feeding into my anti-theist arguments of this God, if it exists, which I don't think it does, but if it does, isn't worthy of worship and should not be an idol for anybody. It's a monster.
I don't want to lose this. I want to give you a chance to respond, Wes, and to ask the questions, but I don't want to lose this point. So let's make sure we come back to this thing about making it more scientifically compatible. But continue with what
I do want to come back to that. You're absolutely right. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure how it makes God a monster. I mean, I feel like God is presented in the Bible as the ultimate, the highest power. Like President Obama was the highest power over the world, or the most powerful man in the world. But that doesn't mean that he can snap his fingers and change people's free will. God puts free agents on the earth, and the Bible is clear that he put.
I'm happy to explain how the God of the Bible is a monster too.
It's easy to show that the God of the Bible is a monster, Wes, but also he specifically hardens Pharaoh's heart. Pharaoh wants to let the slaves go, and God hardens Pharaoh's heart, therefore violating his free will to let the slaves go in order that he can keep showing off. This same God sanctions and endorses slavery, misogyny, murder. I don't know how anybody can look at it and not see a monster.
The same God drowned every living thing on the planet because some people were mean. Like that,
right.
That's an evil person.
Every baby,
it's an evil God.
So the Bible clearly shows something called dynamic inspiration, not some type of original automatic inspiration. So are you familiar with dynamic inspiration, or the idea of that as compared to like
dynamic inspiration is a post hoc rationalization that allows you to cherry pick the parts of the Bible that you find compelling and dismiss the ones that you find troubling. Because you have no way of demonstrating that anything in the Bible was inspired at all. So what you're doing is you're saying, hey, I think the Bible's inspired, but not those parts. Okay, what criteria can you present to show that any part was inspired, and how do you tell the difference between a part that was inspired and one that wasn't?
Okay, so that's a good question. I'd say first of all that the Bible implicitly, a lot of times we ignore what the Bible is telling us about itself, and that the Bible implicitly tells us. Well, okay, so for example, Jesus Christ says in the Old Testament,
no,
God
he doesn't.
gave you this law.
Jesus Christ didn't say anything in the Old Testament, did he?
Yeah, you phrased that in a way where it was really easy to jump in there. So Jesus Christ said what?
That Jesus Christ, what Jesus Christ was quoted as saying, was written down as saying, is that when he was talking to the Pharisees, they were asking him, is it lawful for us to divorce for any reason? And he says, Moses gave you that law because of the hardness of your hearts. But now I'm telling you this. And what we see is very compatible with science. It seems like what we're seeing is it seems like what we're seeing, hold on here. What we're seeing is a God who is bringing beasts, who is bringing animals out from animals to take what normally would have been animals and bring us into something that is above the rest of the race of animals.
No. This is how you get to your confused cherry-picked mishmash. It's not Jesus bringing animals out of anything. If Jesus is
Listen,
God, then he was God all the way back in the Old Testament when he told them to fucking kill people. The notion that Moses told you not to divorce because your heart suffered and now I'm allowing you to divorce, the very notion that you're willing to look at, oh, all those people up until 2,000 years ago were just too animalistic to understand the concept of divorce or why slavery was wrong. This is a modern revisionist spin where you try to make Jesus look like he did something good, but you forget that Jesus is supposedly God. So did something used to be moral or immoral, and then God changed whether it was moral or not? Was God a violent psychopath at one point, and then he got better because we got better?
No, God was taking us step by step out of being barbarians into being civilized humans.
Who made us the barbarians? Who made us the barbarians?
There's nothing wrong with being an animal. Okay, there's nothing wrong.
I didn't say there was. You're the ones that implied they did. Who made us? Who made us murdering barbarians?
Okay, so is a lion a murderer?
Who made us murdering barbarians?
We were not us.
Who made us murdering barbarians? Who made humanity? Who made humanity?
God is making humanity.
Who fucking, why is it that you will not answer the question you're asked? Is it because you know that you are about to step into the thing that exposes that you're full of shit? Who made us?
God is making us.
I give up. You are not worth having a conversation with if you cannot be honest on the most simple question. Who fucking made us?
The same people that made the same one that made the
goodbye, Wes. You are an embarrassment to Jesus, and you are an embarrassment. No, sir, you're muted now. You are an embarrassment to Jesus. I was a better Christian than you when I was a Christian because I wasn't ashamed to stand up for the gospel of Jesus Christ. But you are now dabbling around with open theism, and you're making shit up, and you will not answer the simplest questions because you know where the path leads, that once you answer the first question, it leads to the next question, which leads to the next question, which gets you to where you have to admit that under your theology, the God of the universe created all of us, put two innocent individuals into a garden and told them not to do the very thing that he knew they were going to do and needed to know ahead of time, and then punished them for something that they couldn't possibly have known was wrong, and then punished all of their descendants through inherited sin, and then killed everybody off because they still wouldn't love him, and then tormented them, and then picked out the Jews as his favorite, and then let them continue to be barbarians who he told to go out and slaughter the Midianites and slaughter the Amalekites to where there was no trace left, led the charge against everybody who didn't have chariots of iron as the warmongering piece of shit head barbarian that he was, until a couple of thousand years later, he turns over a new leaf and says, you know what? I'm going to come down and take human form and sacrifice myself to serve as an excuse and a loophole for rules that I make so that I can finally find it in my heart to forgive the people that I made broken. And then they're going to sit there and embarrassingly not represent the truth of the book or what I've said. They're going to sit there and tap dance. And when asked a simple question about who made humans, they're going to say, God is still making humans. You, sir, should be absolutely fucking embarrassed.
I just wanted to ask him because he brought up, first of all, I have nothing to add. I just wanted to ask him about, he said that Jesus came and changed all the laws. I read his book, and it didn't say that. It actually says here in Matthew 5:17, think not that I come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, not one jot or tittle of the law in no wise shall be changed. Like, he didn't say, like, yeah, maybe at one point he said, hey, Moses is wrong about this or that. But like all the shit that God said to do in the Old Testament, Jesus came to fulfill it, not to change it. That's what he said in the book.
That's why they killed him.
I don't know what you want from me here. The God that you're worshiping and that you're trying to promote here is evil. He did horrible, evil things for a very long time and continues to do so. If you're saying he's still trying to change humans and make up those past mistakes, he's doing a shit job at it. And just saying, well, he isn't all powerful isn't a good enough excuse. I'm also not all powerful, and I haven't done half of the insane, evil shit that your God had done. Like, I'm sorry, it's just not, it's not compelling enough. I would love to talk about science, but I don't think we're going to get there.
So here's your shot to rehabilitate all of it, Wes. Welcome back.
Okay. Oh, I appreciate it. You got away with words. So I feel like there are some that, the picture that you painted of God creating everything and this bumbling kind of God who created us and then told us not
the picture we painted, Wes. The picture the Bible painted.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it may be possible that when you read the Bible, that you had a misinterpretation of what the Bible was
Goodbye,
saying.
jackass. No, sir. No, sir. I'm hanging up on you right now. Nobody gets to speak to you anymore. Wes, you are an embarrassment as a pastor. And how dare you suggest that I, who am sitting here and can give you chapter and fucking verse from your embarrassing fucking book, am misunderstanding or misinterpreting it. You sit around there and you figure out how, when it says that if a man lies with another man, they have committed an abomination or deserving of death. How can you fucking misinterpret that? When it says how you enslave the Egypts, your fellow Jews, and you have to let them go in 6 years unless you trick fuck them by giving them a family and kids that they don't want to leave, and then they become your slaves forever. How can you pretend that I'm misinterpreting it when it says how that you can go buy your slaves from the heathen that surround you, that they become your property that you can pass on? That's Leviticus 25. It's also in Exodus 21. No, sir, I'm not misinterpreting anyone, and I'm not this shitty Christian who's trying to toy around with open theism. You're an embarrassment to Christianity and to reasoning. Do better. You don't have to stay stuck there. You can find your way the rest of the way out, but don't you dare suggest that I'm the one that's misinterpreting shit, because I took this shit seriously and you fucking didn't.
I just want to throw out Genesis 3:16. Unto woman, God said, I will greatly multiply your sorrow at your conception. In sorrow you shall bring forth children, and your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over thee. So this is him punishing women for all eternity with painful childbirth and subservience to their husband. And if you read it, he says that part of this punishment is thy desire shall be to thy husband. Heterosexuality was part of their punishment. Fun fact. And it's just, fuck this guy, right? I'm going to make your childbirth painful and problematic and make you subservient to men because of a thing you did. And all of your children and your children's children's children will all suffer this same curse. What a fucking asshole. Can you imagine any real church today or court today saying, hey, you robbed that bank? Guess what? Your great, 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 great grandchildren are going to be beaten to death because of your actions today. No fucking way we'd be cool with that, right?
Wes is probably a generally good guy. Wes probably doesn't like a lot of things that are implied by the religion that he's associated with, and that's why he's dabbling into open theism. But if you're not going to be honest and say, yeah, I got problems with this, or, you know what, the Bible properly read seems to support slavery. Never once does it say it is immoral to own another human being as property. It literally says the opposite. It doesn't say that it is morally preferred, but it's permissible. What's that?
That's why the slavers used the Bible to justify slavery. That's why we had the slaves' Bible in America, where they cut out all the parts about freedom and liberation and redemption and kept in all the parts to say, slaves, obey your masters so you can participate in their piece of heaven. That's all there. That's part of our history in this country that you're ignoring just to say, but God was kind of fucking around, that he was in a silly, goofy mood and he wrote that part. It didn't really mean anything.
But
by the by,
one thing.
All right, go ahead.
One thing that set me over the edge is when he talks about in Matthew chapter 19, where Jesus is talking about divorce, and he's referring to Moses. This is where he said, Jesus said in the Old Testament you were told. Jesus didn't say in the Old Testament. He said, Moses, because of your hard's heart, suffered you to put away your wives. From the beginning it was not so. And I say unto you, whoever shall put away his wife except it be for fornication and shall marry another committeth adultery. Now, what he said, you can go back and rewind it, was that this is consistent with science. And that's when I was like, no. First of all, it's not consistent with science. Science doesn't have shit to say about when you should or shouldn't divorce someone. Second of all, it's inconsistent with good moral principles and sound relationship advice to say that the only reason to divorce someone is infidelity is absurd. You should divorce someone whenever you no longer want to be with them forever. If you cannot keep that commitment, you need to break it. It's better for you. It's better for them. It's better for everyone in the long run, rather than you staying there in misery. What science has to say about relationships is not consistent with only leave someone, only divorce someone if they've cheated on you. It's you just make shit up. Oh, here's what science says, and it's consistent with what Jesus said. No, what Jesus said, and this is for Cliff Connectley as well, who tried to claim that Jesus was a moral genius. Here's a verse right off the bat where Jesus not only isn't a moral genius, but is morally fucking stupid. He doesn't understand relationships. Maybe that's what happens when you are run around with a whole bunch of wandering dudes that contribute nothing to society. But anyway.
It's fucking crazy. Augustin Fuentes.
We were not.
Race, monogamy, and other lies they told you. This guy's a professor of anthropology at Princeton, I think. Talks about, like a lot of cool stuff about human sex and sexuality in there. If you want to learn some actual science about, this stuff instead of just like, well, Jesus technically kind of said. I have another one around here that's similar topics. Also, I just want to throw out that like that part of Genesis that I just said out of random about, punishing women. If that seemed a little off the cuff and kind of out of nowhere, it's because it was. I literally just flipped open a random book. Everything in yellow highlighter is God being a fucking asshole. So every time that comes up, I literally just have to find a page. Here's some yellow highlighter. Right there is a bunch. And the literal random page here is Samuel 24:1. The anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel, and he moved David unto them. Go number Israel and Judah. Go murder everybody. So like just immediately, God sent a pestilence upon Israel from the morning to the time it's like sending plagues. Just anytime I want to find God being a dick, I just open a random page and look for yellow highlighter. It's all over it. It's all over it.
Yeah, I'm not the one reading it wrong. The one reading it with God-colored lenses is the one that's reading it wrong, where you decided ahead of time that God was the good one. By the way, Wes, how did you decide that God was the good one and Satan was the evil one? That's an interesting question for another day. But thanks for the call.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jimmy Snow, executive producer of The Line, and the rumors are true. Forrest Valkai is, in fact, a hostage in my basement. If you would like to contribute to his freedom one day, you can do so by supporting us over on Patreon or becoming a channel member. There are specific tiers for specific shows or the channel at large. You can also send us super thanks. Those are great. You can like, comment, and subscribe. Also, fudge the algorithm. Go to one of these things. The algorithm doesn't matter. It thinks it knows you better than we do. Better than you do? I know you better. Hank. There's a bunch of people named Hank. I just freaked way out. Okay, go to one of these.